Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing great. So in this video, we're going to continue our exploration of the different strata, the different layers of the unconscious, from all the way from what we call the subconscious, which is the higher layer of the unconscious, all the way down, deeper layers, the shadow, the borderline between the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious, stitched by what I call the knotting of the symbol, and how all this complex internal world is populated with signs in the subconscious, in the higher layers, gets more and more cipher-like as you get deeper, and of course the domain of the frontier and of the collective unconscious is populated with symbols, which we often understand as archetypes, okay, if you take a Jungian approach. Now, in my last video, I was offering a new interpretation of what it means to be compliant, why compliance is addictive, why it's difficult for an INFJ to transcend compliance into something that looks more like a form of spiritualization, to develop pockets of spiritualization, invest more interest in order to become, in a sense, a more whole being, a more individuated being, a more independent and autonomous person. So hopefully my explanation was interesting and convincing for at least some of you. But I want to go a little bit deeper into why compliance and solipsism for INFJs, but I think the phenomenon is very similar for INTJs. Perhaps it's the reverse. It's a notion that I have that, maybe INTJs are a bit more prone to solipsism and less to compliance. In any case, looking at compliance and looking at solipsism, we now have a notion of why they are addictive and why they are difficult to get out of, because they create this sense that they are very, very protective. But I want to show you that this is an illusion. This is in a sense, this is a false form of reassurance, and this is a false form of protection. In previous work, in previous videos, I already approached this notion. By offering an image of the distinction between NI expansion and NI consolidation. And I was saying that NI feeds on the external world, on the data of the external world. Otherwise, it doesn't have much to work with. So it's true that if you are significantly invested in protecting your NI symbolism, you will give yourself the feeling, and it's a reassuring feeling to begin with, that you're consolidating what you have already. But you won't expand it into, just new domains, new areas, new ways of experiencing the world and of processing your experiencing of the world and symbolizing your experience of the world and fantasizing your experience of the world. Now, we have new words, new descriptions, new concepts at our disposal that allow us to develop a keener understanding of what is really going on. If you are an NI dominant and you're keenly invested in protecting your NI symbolism from the external world, right? So you're jealously guarding it against possible interference by other people, impingements by other people. As an aside, this is usually an indication of a fragile ego, not in the sense of like, oh, this guy has a fragile ego, in the sense that the person feels like they by themselves are not enough to withstand interaction with other people. They get this fear that this interaction with other people is kind of a threat to their ciphers. They don't experience that. They don't consciously experience it as that, of course, but that's what's going on. The integrity of their unconscious world, unconscious NI world, is compromised if they interact with a lot of other people and they talk about their deeper interests with these other people, instead of just adopting an attitude either of sort of neutral compliance or very sort of marked withdrawal. Okay. Now, what's really going on is that if you don't really engage much with other people and with external reality, you're not gonna engage with new signs. If you don't grab hold of new signs, those new signs don't penetrate into your unconscious. If they don't penetrate into your unconscious, they don't travel over time, little by little, into the deeper recesses of the unconscious, where they become more cipher-like, right? So concretely, by not engaging with external reality, what you are doing over the long term is impoverishing your NI world, impoverishing it of new ciphers. So you're working with the old ciphers, you're letting the interactions of archetypes and ciphers do their work in fantasy, but there's only so much material that the archetypes can work with and that the ciphers can work with, right? Because if you like, your dynamic NI world becomes progressively a more static world of symbolism. That has an impact on desire, because desire is always fed on looking for the lack in what you don't have. So the engine of desire, and desire understood in the broad sense, is always a perceived lack that has to be filled. The fact that it's never filled is what propels desire further and further and keeps you energized throughout the day and throughout the year. So to be desiring beings, we need to have an experience of lack. If your world is static, if your internal world becomes more and more ossified, calcified, like a desert and static, it loses its dynamic quality and it loses its ability to notice the lack. And so you become less desiring beings. Now, there's a clear connection between having less desire and having a less dynamic internal world, which inevitably is going to translate into less creativity and expression, less creativity and imagination. What do these things remind you of? They should remind you, evoke in you, what we would call depressive symptoms. Now, I'm not here to diagnose depression, okay? However, I am here to suggest that we now have, if you like, a terminological arsenal at our disposal to explain how prolonged periods of compliance or solipsism for INFJs and likely for INTJs as well are bound to culminate in states of being and states of mind that look more and more deprived, impoverished, and depressive. Okay guys, so hopefully you enjoyed that video. Give me a like if you did. Don't forget that you can join my Patreon, and you need your support more than ever, guys. And you know, it doesn't cost you very much. It's only a few dollars a month or a year. And in return, you help me massively. You get access to a whole library of exclusive contents, long format videos on topics chosen by the community on Discord and on Patreon. You get access to my Discord as well, so please consider it. I could not do this without you guys, okay? And finally, don't forget that you can also read my books. The Infinite Soul is my latest book on the INFJ, all about INFJs in the external world, how to find meaning, purpose, and value in this world we often find hostile, as well as the Ecstatic Soul, which is more a book on the internal world of the INFJ thoughts, consciousness, beliefs, internal mechanisms. These books go well together. All the links are also in the description box. Thank you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.